Hi everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Sorry I can't be there with you this weekend. I have a couple derby games down in North Carolina. I hope you're all having a great time, had a good lunch, and I wish I was there. I miss you guys. All right, enjoy. So, one topic that I found particularly interesting is the practice of ancestor worship, and specifically the Qing Ming festival. As I researched the history, traditions, and modern inceptions of this holiday, I realized that it encompasses many of the overarching themes that I felt arose during our trip, specifically the importance of family, the balancing of dualities, and adaptability of the Chinese people. During this important holiday, which falls around April 4th or 5th each year, people return to their homes to clean off their relatives' tombs and honor them by paying their respects and offering sacrifices of food, paper money, and other items the deceased might need in the afterlife. This festival interested me because it reminds me a lot of one of my favorite Western holidays, which is El Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, that's celebrated in Mexico. Also, I've been recently researching the histories and cultural differences of how societies view death and grieving, as well as ancestor worship. Also, a growing concern is the fact that as our population is getting bigger all around the world, we're starting to run out of places for the remains of our loved ones. So that is another thing that this festival kind of recently has started dealing with. Ancestor worship is a big deal to Chinese culture. Some of the things that they do are burn incense and candles and offer food to their deceased relatives. Many families will have shrines in their homes where their ancestors have placards with their names and titles and birth and death dates as well. The origins of this festival date back to the Qing dynasty around 650 BC. And at that time, the king's son, Chong was forced to flee to the mountains with some of his officers because there was a jealous concubine who accused him of rebellion so that she could make sure her son was the crown prince. So as Chong and his officers are in the mountains, they're cold, they're hungry, they're starving. One of his officers is very loyal and says he'll cut off a piece of his leg and cook it, and he does this and gives it to Chong lives. He's very, very grateful, and finally, after about 3 years, he's able to go back because the evil concubine dies, and he becomes king. Well, the officer that fed him his own leg felt that Chong was just as corrupt and unjust as all the others, and he decided he wanted nothing to do with him. He secluded himself in the forest with his mom. Chong forgets about him for a while and eventually realizes, oh, I should probably thank him now that I have power and money. And so he sends an invite to the officer. The officer refuses because, again, he sees that Chong has become corrupt. Chong gets mad and makes his officers burn the forest to try and smoke out the officer. Well, unfortunately, this kills the man and his mother. Chong finds them underneath a willow tree and is forever upset and decides to make this holiday so that every year he'll go back and pay his respects to this man who helped him to survive. And they've been doing it ever since. Some of the traditions that have come out of this include Cold Food Day, which originally was a day before Qing Ming Festival, but now it's kind of combined, in which you only eat cold food because Chong wanted to not have any fire, kind of in remembrance of his big mistake. So a lot of people eat these green dumplings that are filled with bean paste. Other things you might do are offer sacrifices to your family members, maybe whatever the deceased favorite food was. Sometimes they would put beer there, cigarettes, and also other items that the deceased might need in the afterlife, such as money or clothing. And this is all made out of paper. Um, some other things they might do is put willow branches to ward off evil spirits, and that goes back to how they found the officer and his mother under the willow tree. So once you give all these offerings, the family will have a picnic and eat the food after they've offered it, and all of the paper, money, and clothing and other sacrifices they have, they burn it. And this is thought to send it all up to the other world for their family members. Another tradition of the Qing Ming festival is flying kites. And this is neat because it's representative of the fact that the Qing Ming festival is actually dualistic, and it has a couple purposes. Not only are you honoring your ancestors, but it's also a chance to get out into nature. It's a combination of happiness and sadness, of life and death. This is right as spring is coming into bloom, and it's nice because it shows the two sides of everything. On the bus one day, I believe John was explaining to us the Chinese philosophy of yin and yang, how everything has a complementary opposite. And looking back and reflecting on our experiences, I think this idea of the duality of the whole, or contradictions, came up a lot. And for example, the balance between the new and the old, tradition and progress, communism and capitalism, freedom and oppression, it all kind of blended together in a very neat way. When you look up Qing Ming Festival, a lot of times you'll see this poem, which is by Du Mu from the Tang Dynasty, and apparently a lot of children learn it. It goes like this. Rain drizzles ceaselessly at the time of Qing Ming Festival. The traveler on the road is nearly spirit broken. Courteously inquiring where a tavern could be found, a shepherd boy points to Apricot Flower Village in the far distance ahead. When I first read it, I thought nothing of it and skipped over it, and then I kept seeing it again and again, and I realized that it shows that dualistic nature where it's cold and raining, and then he's going to go to this warm village, this warm tavern where he can take his sadness and drink it away to happiness. The next theme that kind of want to talk about was the importance of family. And the nice thing about the Qing Ming Festival is that families will come together. It's one of the few times during the year where everyone gets back together. And it's also another nice aspect of the Qing Ming Festival, where again you're not only honoring your ancestors, you're also going to meet up with your family and honor those relatives that are still living. But this whole importance of family was something that was really difficult for me as a Westerner who's engrossed in this idea of individuality. The notion of family loyalty and bringing honor to them kind of irked me in a way. Now I do love my family dearly, but I have no desire to do things only to elevate the family name or demonstrate my loyalty to them. At its worst, it seems like an oppressive, systematic control of free will, which kind of makes sense because it heralds back to the misogynistic ideas of gender and social roles according to Confucius. So yeah, and it's hard for me with my Western upbringing and ideology to reconcile the two. But I respect the way that it plays out in Chinese culture and the role it takes in that social structure and how it kind of acts as a glue for society. And I think it gives another reason for people to do the right thing, to keep family ties close, which I think is really nice and something that, in a way, we're lacking in Western society. Modern inceptions of the celebration are much larger. In these pictures, you see a celebration for an emperor that had died. In the top picture, you see children that are cleaning the graves of other people in society that have been very influential. Other ways that the King Ming Festival has changed is that now, instead of just money and paper clothes, people are buying modern accessories such as credit cards and iPhones and watches and glasses, and there's even a dishwasher in there because you want your family members to have the latest accessories from the modern age. So it's gotten a little out of control. There's a mansion in the back there, there's a horse, whatever you think your deceased loved ones might need. And people will spend, usually on average, around 200 yuan per person on these paper products that are just getting burnt at the altar because they feel that their ancestors need them. And the more you give them, the more loyalty it shows. When we were in China, I asked Grace about this, and she told me a joke. And when something like this, there was a man who was going to buy some products for his mother to take to the King Ming Festival so that he can burn them and send them to her in heaven. So he goes to the store and he tells the guy, I need something really nice for my mother. So he pulls out a paper diamond necklace. He says, you should buy this. And he said, okay, I'll buy this. And then he gets and says, you should buy this flat screen TV. She needs to be able to watch TV while she's there. You don't want her to be bored, do you? So he buys the TV. And then he says, you should also buy this iPhone and this iPad. This way she can talk to her friends and she can play games and she'll be happy. You want to be a good son, right? He said, yeah, you know what? I will get those. The shopkeeper says, well, if you buy these, you need to also get the chargers. Because what happens if the battery runs out? And the man says, you know what? I'm not going to get the chargers. I'm going to leave them here with you so that if anything goes wrong with this stuff, she knows where to come and who to blame. So Grace had me laughing. This brings us to some modern concerns. The first being that they're running out of space for the remains of their loved ones. And burial is really expensive. The price of a cemetery plot is astronomical. They're even running out of room in the crematoriums. And so lately the government has been pushing for more green burials, such as water burials, where they would scatter their loved ones' ashes in the river, or tree burials, where a tree would be planted in a pot made out of the ashes. Another thing that's gaining popularity is turning your family's ashes into a piece of jewelry. Another issue is the pollution that is caused from burning all of these wonderful modern paper appliances like massage chairs and cars and flat screen TVs, as well as the fact that people are coming from all over the world back to their hometowns, and this traveling is leading to more air pollution as well. Technology has really helped this problem, though, because now you can go to a virtual shrine and give digital sacrifices such as roast pig in the bottom left picture. Or if you can't make it to your family's grave sites, you can hire a company who will, for a fee, go and sweep the tomb and do all the rituals while you watch via Skype. I think, again, this is a great demonstration of the duality, this old versus new, tradition and progress, and they come together really nicely. And it also shows the adaptability of the Chinese people, which is one of the things that most impressed me. Reading China in 10 Words showed me that, in general, the Chinese people have had to adapt to changing rules and governments and challenges so frequently over the past century just in order to survive. And it seems like this necessity has created an enterprising and opportunistic populace, as well as a government and country in general. They seem to adapt to changing times and situations, yet hold on to their fundamental and historic identities, which I think is just great. I mean, think about Walmart. You have your traditional Eastern food, you have your Western food, and it's magical. I hope you guys enjoyed my little presentation about King Ming. I'm finding it really fascinating, and I'm going to keep reading about it. And I miss you all, and have a great rest of your summer, and hope to see you all soon.